Hello everybody, I'm Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County. I'm pleased to bring another one of our series of shining the spotlight where it needs to be shown. And today, what I consider a great friend and a special guest. I've got our Sheriff, John Fuson, with us. Sheriff, welcome.
Good to see you, Mayor.
Good to have you here. And Sheriff's a little bit different from some of the people we've interviewed. We've interviewed some elected officials, but some department heads. He is an elected official, and so we're going to get started. And I really just want to start off to, Sheriff, just tell everybody about Sheriff John Fuson.
Well, I know I've been around Montgomery County a pretty good while. I've gotten to know a lot of people, just in my time living here. But
how long have you lived here?
Well, we moved here in 1984, and of course the military, like a lot of folks that moved into Montgomery County, the military brought us here. And I had a stepdad that retired. He wasn't in the military at the time, but he had cycled through Fort Campbell when he was in the military. And when he retired, we was in Michigan, and we had a conversation about where we want to go, he and my mom. And my mom had lived in Kingsport. He had lived in Kentucky, and then of course his time in Fort Campbell when he was in the military, he says, well, how about Clarksville? So that's how we ended up here.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Seems like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I remember coming into Clarksville and seeing, welcome to Clarksville, Montgomery County, population 56,000 people. And now look where we're at. But a lot more woods and forests were around Montgomery County at that time. And that was not very long ago.
No, 56,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
56,000. It was on the side.
Wow. Well, what led you down the law? And we're getting into this, but I know you worked at the Sheriff's Department, but what led you down the path of law enforcement?
Sure. Well, and you hate to sound cliche, but you think about careers when you're a young child. You think about things that are attainable, but like being a pro sports player and things like that. But you get out, life hits you, and you start thinking about a career path. And some folks go the college route. Of course, I went the historic working route. And me and my wife got married, and she was in college pursuing a degree in teaching, and she teaches to this day. And as soon as she got out, I wanted to pursue my career in law enforcement. So kind of started that, test driving it. And I always like to say that because I started out as a reserve deputy, believe it or not.
Wow.
And what other jobs can you go to where you can kind of test drive it, so to speak, and you get bit. I know a lot of folks in law enforcement will tell you that they got into the career, they wanted to be in that career, and then once they got in there, they just got the bug, and then the rest is, they say, history.
That is so cool. So you worked patrol pretty good while, didn't you? I
did. Actually started out in the courthouse. Worked in the courthouse for a couple of years under Sheriff Billy Smith, and then come into the patrol division under Sheriff Lewis, and put myself through the academy. Of course, when I was a reserve, I knew that this is what I wanted to do, and to be able to get into the sheriff's office back at that time, somebody had to retire or somebody had to die. So I knew I wanted to be there, so I needed to market myself to where I could be selected for that. So I put myself through the police academy, and then I got selected to be in the court center until a position came open. And then when that position came open, I was selected for that, and started in patrol, worked all 3 shifts there.
Bet you've had some pretty good experiences working patrol.
Yeah, a lot of tales, and really I like to kind of look back at talk about how we've grown. Just in Montgomery County, our population, the types of activity that we see have changed, and you certainly see some of the worst that's in our county, and you see some of the best as well. So a very wide dynamic of things to see as far as activity and incidents go, and there's just a lot to be said about this county.
Yeah. So I don't know what year it was, but you and I were together in Washington, D.C., a Friends of Fort Campbell trip. And I think you told me then, you said, you know what, I'm going to put my name in the hat for sheriff.
Yeah, that seems like it was just yesterday too.
I know it.
At the time, I was a county commissioner. Of course, I've always been involved in the community, from Little League Baseball out in the Woodlawn community to just doing whatever to kind of help support the community, and then ran for that position in 2010 and was selected, and of course had that opportunity to go with the Friends of Fort Campbell there, and got to really get to know people a lot better, which I always knew each other, but really get to know folks that you have met before.
Yeah.
You just got to know them better, and that was one of those opportunities. And I do remember that. Remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I do
It was,
too. I do too. I do too. Sheriff, I can't ask you what a typical day like is being sheriff
No
of
such thing as a typical day.
Montgomery County. I shouldn't be laughing because
Right.
we y'all go through, y'all experience stuff, and we're involved with it sometimes. Sometimes we're not. But I think one of the things that the sheriff is a constitutional officer, like a lot of our other positions, but it is the top law enforcement officer for Montgomery County.
That's correct. The chief law enforcement
Yeah.
officer of the county. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And that's a big badge to carry.
It sure is. It sure is a lot of responsibility, and I know folks have heard us say full service law enforcement agency, and sometimes I get the question, what does that mean? Which, in a traditional law enforcement setting, you have patrol officers that respond to calls for service. You have investigators that investigate crimes, make arrests, things like that. You have traffic units, other folks like that working, but that would be a typical law enforcement response. But when I say the difference between that and a sheriff's office, of course, a sheriff's office in the state of Tennessee does all of those things, plus they're responsible for the jail, holding all of those that are arrested within this jurisdiction by our agency and other agencies with the power to arrest, keeping the jail, keeping the inmates safe, keeping them fed, and of course the medical for those until they're lawfully discharged by a court. Then we're also responsible for safety and security of the court. Make sure those cases go on, and they go on in an environment where the judge and the district attorney can do their job. Responsible for keeping the physical plan of the court safe and secure from any threats, and we're also responsible for all the service that comes out of the courts, the subpoenas, the divorce papers, all of those things, criminal warrants, civil warrants.
The judicial side of it in itself is huge. Then you add the jail side of it.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the jail for a minute because I don't really like to talk about COVID, but I know that we had a task force and we had this call every day, and you and your guys did a phenomenal job of keeping COVID out of our jail. And knock on wood.
That's right.
But it was a Herculean effort in my opinion.
It was, and it started, really early in the pandemic. And jails, most people don't realize that there's viruses and things that can spread in a jail pretty quick just because of the congregate setting that's in there. People are in close proximity to one another. So there's protocols and processes that we have to keep things like that out of the jail initially anyway. So there's already some things in place up front, pre-pandemic. But of course, when a pandemic hits, more and more people are infected. So you have to take steps to prevent that. So when this first started coming out, we were taking more steps to enhance the processes and protocols that we had already in place to keep it out. We were very successful at that. Of course, the inmates and the staff weren't too happy to have to wear masks and gloves and things like that, but because it was a little bit outside of their normal, and it created additional stressors on them to be able to do that. But we got through that. I think at any given point we did have some cases come in, but the way that we were processing folks when they came in, we was able to screen them prior to releasing folks that get booked into the general population, and the general population was already in the clear from that. So of course, as our numbers started to go up, we got a little bit more secure, or really concerned about it spreading. But then when the courts kind of shut down, and folks were taken out of jail, then that lowered the numbers, and that helped a little bit. But I think at any given point we had a couple of dozen. I know this last strain that come through, we did get up to about 50 inmates, and I think probably about a dozen staff members in there. But for a jail our size, we're pre-COVID, we were pushing over 600 inmates. Post-COVID, during the pandemic, we were hovering around the high 3s and low 400s.
Yeah, and that's just inmates. That's
just inmates,
staff.
not staff, right? So, but if you look at the percentage there, I guess is what I'm getting at, the percentage of people that were positive. And you look at the other jails across the state, some of them smaller jails, some of them larger jails. we did very well, and TCI and the state recognized that as well. So
awesome.
we were out.
Well, I just remember in the news seeing that, you know, that some state prisons, that like 85% of their population had it, like crazy.
Yeah, and that happens, and that's how come you have these protocols in place just for normal viruses and things like that that could spread in there, and I think that's the issue with us.
So I said I wasn't going to ask this, but what is a typical day in the life of the sheriff?
Well, you know, I said a while ago when you mentioned that, I don't know what a typical day is because, you know, I think that's probably part of the appeal of what we do. You know, it's not monotonous. You know, every day is different, you know, and the day in the life of the line deputy in any part of the operation. You know, patrol deputy, for instance, you know, they will come in and do a roll call, and they'll be assigned a particular geographical zone in the county, and they're liable to respond to anything from dogs barking and disruptive neighbors to, you know, homicide in progress. So you never know what you're going to get. And I know just the other day we had one where 2 deputies had to go in and save 2 children from a burning home, and you know, that's something that, you know, we have to prepare for. So, you know, it can take you a large range of emotions to go through a day in the life of not just patrol, but even in the correctional settings. You know, we talked about the jail a while ago. It's the same for them. You know, granted, the folks that they're supervising are, you know, put up, but, you know, things can break loose in a jail at any time that you're not prepared for. So it's a very dangerous and, you know, job.
It's a lot of administration just related to the jail itself.
That's correct. You know,
and that's not including all your other administration.
That's right. Well, you know, even on top of all of that, you know, there's a lot of things that we have to do to make sure we're in compliance with certain rules, regulations, and laws, and make sure that, you know, we're doing things in a safe manner. But, you know, in my day of life, in my world, you know, probably a lot more boring than what some of the guys on the street have. But, you know, we're thinking about, you know, things in the future, you know, planning for our growth, and, you know, going through the budget process right now. That's part of it. So, but definitely you don't see where your day goes because you're so busy. You know, there's many times I'll come in, you know, as a matter of fact, and, you know, I'll see my staff for a little bit. We'll have meetings during the day scheduled, and, you know, you'll get piled in on something that you're working, and have a couple of phone calls and setting up appointments with people across the state, really across the country, to help you do what you're doing here. And before you know it, you're looking up and it's 2:30, 3 o'clock, and you're already past lunch. And you wouldn't know that unless your stomach wasn't growling at you.
Exactly.
And then you go get you a bite to eat so you can focus again, and then you come back, and before you know it, it's dark outside and everybody in the office is gone. I mean, I don't know how many times that's happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you as well.
Sheriff, you mentioned something about, you know, you talk to people across the United States. The Tennessee Sheriff's Association, it's truly a brotherhood of law enforcement officers, and you know, there's so much that's gone on in our world in the last 2.5 years, and there's good people and there's bad people, and there's been good cops and there's been bad cops, and I don't really want to go down there, but I think what impresses me is like, you know, when there's something that happens, you can call Knoxville, or you can call, I mean, it's a fraternity or sorority or whatever, because it's men and women, but it is a group of people that will come and help their fellow brothers, isn't it?
That's absolutely right. You know, and one of the first things I did was got involved with the Tennessee Sheriff's Association.
I think that's huge.
Yeah, when I was a county commissioner, I did the same thing for the Tennessee County Commissioners Association and TCSA. To, you know, just learn and network with folks. And, you know, you're absolutely right, you know, and my heavily involved activity with the Sheriff's Association and my staff, you know, quite frankly, whenever we have, you know, our meetings, which is every other month, I try to bring as many of my command staff there as possible just for the networking.
Right.
And what we get out of that, you know, not just the training, but the networking is invaluable. You know, I can pick up the phone and call Sheriff Spangler there in Knox County and ask him if he's ever dealt with something that I'm dealing with, and, you know, I don't have to reinvent the wheel on solving an issue here, you know, or I could call down to Franklin County and talk to Tim Fuller if it's a situation that he's worked before, or even a small county like Weakley County. You know, the sheriff up there is the longest serving sheriff in the state of Tennessee. This is his last go around. He's retiring, but a lot of knowledge in that man as well. So, and then I could call Shelby County and talk to Floyd Bonner. You know, he and I have gotten really close over the last several years, and you can imagine Memphis, Shelby County, the issues that they have.
Wow.
And, you know, if there's anything going on here, you know, they've been there,
Yeah,
done
they've
that,
been
got
there.
2 t-shirts, so that's exactly right. The networking is just huge.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what do you see as some long-term, or let's start with short-term challenges for the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office? And I know one of them's funding, without a doubt.
Well, and I wouldn't say it, you know, kind of like, you know, just a few weeks ago, I got to go down to the border and see what's going on down there. And I tell you, you know, seeing that puts kind of a lot of things in perspective, you know, when you see a challenge like that they have. But up here, looking at, you know, our short-term, you know, really things that we have problems with, and I know that ours is, you know, just the same, you know, not just in other law enforcement organizations or other county offices, but in other private businesses is staff, finding adequate staff to do the job. You know, we've been very fortunate. You know, the county commissioner and your administration has been very good to us, and we greatly appreciate that because we're growing so large that we need those additional resources to meet that demand. But the biggest thing for us is just keeping those employees in the saddle and working. And you know, when you have growth like we've had, you know, there's opportunities abound for folks, and you know, certainly they got to provide for their families,
right?
And they see opportunities that are more conducive for their families, and you know, they got it in here. They want to be a law enforcement officer, but you know, reality strikes them when prices start going up, and they see a job opportunity that would make life a lot easier for them and their family. So, really, it's just recruiting and retaining people to stay in these positions to do the job that we have to do. We talked about vacancies just yesterday during our budget hearing, and again, it's not just a challenge for us, it's a challenge for everybody, but especially for us because, you know, there's a lot of requirements that, you know, are on a person to be in this position, and more and more people, especially, you know, through the negative light that's in the media about law enforcement in general, it's harder to get people to want to do that job.
Right.
So they're harder to find people that are truly qualified to do that job to the level that I would expect for them to do that.
Right.
Now, there's applicants out there, and we could drop our standards to get them in there, but we're certainly not going to do that because those standards are set in place for a reason, and it's very important to try to meet and exceed those if you can.
Yeah. I just, you know, I wish there was something we could do that could change the narrative about law enforcement, and you know, all this stuff about defund the police and all that. I mean, but you said it, for somebody that somebody's got to have it here.
That's right.
To want to go out there and do what these men and women do.
They have to put up with a lot.
Yeah, and we have looked at the pay once. We adjusted it, but we're in a pay plan now, and I hopefully that's gonna make it better and make it more appealing for people. So let me change. Quit talking so much about the stuff. What would you tell somebody that was interested in going into law enforcement?
Well, I think again it starts with what you know, what they feel in their heart, what they want to do. You know, because this is truly a public service job.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of times it's you know, thankless. You know, folks are expected to meet a mark, and when they meet that mark consistently, you know, they don't get the recognition in the public that you know, they used to back in the day. So I really think that, you know, the person that wants to do this job can't think about the money. You know, they can't think about anything selfish. You know, this is a selfless job.
Yeah.
And I know most public service jobs is in any discipline in county government or city government or government period, because you're serving the public. That's your primary responsibility. But to have that mindset, you know, I think you need to have that. That should almost be a prerequisite to even accepting a job like this, because if you don't have that, you know, you're not going to be successful in this kind of a career. So I think that's the biggest advice that I could give someone. Yeah, it might be cool or sexy or look like fun or look like something that you would enjoy and have a good time at, but there's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows, you know, that you'll experience in a career like this, and you have to be tooled that way to be able to handle all of that. So it's very important. People know themselves
Yeah.
So that's the biggest piece of advice that I'd give them.
Well, and I think something too, Sheriff, is the way society's changed, and you may agree with this or disagree with it, but you said back in the 80s, you started out as a reserve. You took a test drive.
That's right.
It was always, it was kind of always in you, but you got the opportunity, and it seems like in today's world, it's so fast paced, it's all this stuff that somebody getting out of college or in college won't take the opportunity to say, I'm thinking about a career in law enforcement. Why don't I get in the reserve program while I'm going to college or whenever?
Sure.
And I just think society is, we do say things so fast now. It just, I don't know. So would you recommend a life of public service?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's very rewarding. I think at the end of the day, you think about that, and I know you've worked in city government a long time and now in county government, and we certainly wish you well on your endeavors, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
It's rewarding. You look back, it wasn't the pay that you didn't get, it wasn't the vacation that you didn't get, and yeah, it does hurt when you miss birthday parties and things like that, watching your kids grow. But at the end of the day, you look back and you see the reward that you got just because you've made a difference in other people's lives, and I think that's where it's at.
And the friends you met, just people that you never would have met, but
that's right.
Co-workers that become lifelong friends. So not being a native Montgomery County, if you left here, you've been here a long time.
I was here since I was 14.
Yeah.
So, if you're here before 14, this is your home. So.
I'm not gonna ask you how old you are.
Yeah.
So, but if you left out of here and you met somebody out on the street, a couple, and started a conversation, and they were thinking about moving to Montgomery County, what would you tell them?
Sure. Well, there's a whole lot I could tell them. I know just looking at the growth that we have here and all of the dynamic that Montgomery County is. We've got a huge military base, which this community supports very well, and a lot of people have cycled through the military, the 101st Airborne. You've got a great college, Austin Peay State University is, they have programs there that, can meet anybody's educational needs. You've got several junior colleges. We've got a TCAT here in Montgomery County. We've got an industrial park that's got a wide array of job opportunities there. In industry, blue collar, white collar type work, building, contractors and folks like that. I know that there's a boom going on right now in that industry. So if you like building things, this is the place to be. So really, just the different things that could meet the demographic of different things that you may be interested in as a career. And not just that, really a fun place to be for your family. We've got a great park system that we've built over the years that, the community enjoys to use. And we've got other amenities here in Montgomery County that facilities are proud of. And we're not too far from Nashville if you like to go down there and watch a football game. Go to the Grand Ole Opry, and we're just about a day drive down to the beach, so we're not, and we do that quite often. We'll drive down through Franklin and go through Alabama and go to Orange Beach. I know a lot of folks around here do that, but so all of those things collectively, make it, a great place to be, because there's just so many different things that could appeal to just any demographic.
Awesome. My last question, what do you think's been one of the most gratifying experiences you've had since you've been, I won't say sheriff, I'll let it go back through your career in law enforcement?
Well, I think it's just being in a position to see and recognize where we're going as a county. I know you can look back a few years, and I know you pay close attention to what goes on locally, even early in your career, and you kind of forecast and you see how things are going and where they're going to be. So you start laying pieces out there to make things better for you career-wise, and you see how those things start unfolding in front of you. And to me, I would say the most rewarding thing is being able to recognize those and be in a position where I can serve and help others and know that it made a difference. So I think that's got to be it for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sheriff, I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you as always, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.